All across Europe, you can find thousands of these ancient stone monuments just standing there. They're like these silent puzzles. And they were built by people who, supposedly, had no writing, no advanced tools. But it seems they were hiding a secret, a really strange one, a mysterious standardized measurement that seems to connect all of them. So what on earth is this ancient blueprint? Right, it's the precision that's just truly baffling. When you look at sites like Stonehenge, they are engineered with an accuracy that would give modern surveyors a run for their money, even with all their laser equipment. So you have to ask, how did ancient builders pull this off? Well, the answer might just lie in a single, impossible number. And here it is, 2.72 feet. That's about 0.829 meters. This one, very specific number, is right at the heart of this entire mystery. Why? Because it just keeps showing up over and over and over again at ancient sites that are separated by thousands of miles and were built across thousands of years. And that is the paradox here. I mean, a standardized unit this precise, it just shouldn't exist in what we thought were completely disconnected, pre-literate societies. The evidence suggests a level of coordination and shared knowledge that pretty much turns our whole understanding of the ancient world completely on its head. Okay, so what exactly is this unit? It's time we formally meet the measurement that, just maybe, could rewrite our entire understanding of prehistory. It's called the Megalithic Yard. Now, that term was coined by a Scottish engineer, a brilliant guy named Alexander Thom, who basically dedicated his life to studying these sites. What he found was that from the stone circles of Scotland all the way to the megaliths of France, this exact same unit formed the foundation of their design. It was everywhere. And listen, this wasn't some fluke discovery. It was the result of one man's obsessive, decades-long quest to find the patterns he was sure were hidden right there in the stones. Alexander Thom was absolutely no amateur. We're talking about a retired professor of engineering from Oxford University. Using the very best survey equipment he could get his hands on, he meticulously measured over 600 of these megalithic sites. He wasn't looking for gold or treasure. He was looking for patterns. And what he found was just extraordinary, this single recurring unit of measurement that seemed to bind them all together. Thom realized pretty quickly that he hadn't just stumbled upon some prehistoric ruler. No. He'd found a key that unlocked a hidden blueprint of the cosmos itself, etched right into the landscape. You see, the megalithic yard revealed that these weren't just crude piles of rock. Not at all. They were complex machines. Thom found stunning geometric precision, including Pythagorean triangles, thousands of years before Pythagoras was even born. These sites, it turns out, were acting as vast astronomical observatories, tracking the cosmos to predict solstices, equinoxes, and maybe even eclipses. But where did this number, 2.72 feet, actually come from? Thom's theory was radical. He said it came from the cosmos. He proposed that the builders used this unique system of geometry. Basically, if you divide the Earth's orbit into 3,606 parts, and then use that to calculate a unit of measurement based on our planet's circumference, what you get is exactly one megalithic yard. It's wild. And that, of course, leads to the big one, the profound question. How in the world could ancient people, without writing, without modern math, without telescopes, how could they possibly calculate the precise dimensions of our own planet? This is a problem that mainstream archaeology has really struggled to answer. And the mystery only gets deeper when we start looking beyond Europe. Because when we do, we find echoes of this same knowledge scattered all across the globe, hinting at some forgotten, shared origin. This presented a huge problem for archaeologists. This knowledge just seemed to pop up suddenly, all over Europe, among cultures that were supposedly completely unconnected. And that led Thom to his most radical theory yet, that the knowledge wasn't developed independently by all these different groups. Nope, it was inherited from a single source, a lost, highly advanced global civilization. And the connections, they just keep going. Researchers found that if you take other ancient units of measurement, like the Egyptian remen or the Sumerian cubit, and you use them as the sides of a right-angled triangle, the hypotenuse, the long side, often measures out to exactly one megalithic yard. It's almost as if these ancient cultures were all speaking the same universal mathematical language. And if you think that's strange, it gets even weirder. When you start plotting these ancient sites on a map, They form these massive geometric patterns across the entire landscape. We're talking perfect triangles connecting sites hundreds of miles apart, with their dimensions measured in whole megalithic yards. These are patterns that you could only see and plan from high up in the atmosphere, maybe even from orbit. Okay, but as revolutionary as all these ideas were, the academic establishment was, let's just say, not impressed. So now it's time to look at the other side of the story, the case against the megalithic yard. Right, so the skeptics argue that there are much simpler explanations. They suggest the megalithic yard is really nothing more than the average human stride length, which would naturally cluster around that 2.72 feet mark. They accuse Thorne of selection bias, of only focusing on the data that happened to fit his theory. And they make a really crucial point. Despite decades of searching, no one has ever found a physical yardstick from this time.
So where does all this leave us? Well, with a fantastic story on one hand and some pretty serious scientific critique on the other. But here's the thing. Even if we dismiss Tom's Yard entirely, a profound mystery absolutely remains. The existence of this one specific megalithic yard is still debated, for sure. But the function of these sites? That's not really up for debate anymore. It is a scientific fact, confirmed by modern computers, that places like Stonehenge were basically astronomical computers, capable of predicting eclipses with a complexity that later civilizations couldn't even match. The real question isn't if they used advanced mathematics, it's how. They got that knowledge in the first place.
This quote really just gets to the heart of it all. For thousands of years, these cultures were moving mountains, they were mapping the stars, and building with cosmic precision. And then, all of a sudden, they just stopped. The knowledge seems to have just vanished. So maybe the bigger mystery isn't how they did it, but why it all came to an end.
Which leaves us with one final, kind of unsettling thought. If a system of science and engineering this advanced could be built, used for millennia, and then be completely forgotten, it forces us to ask, what other knowledge, what other huge parts of our own story could also be lost to time?